Hello and welcome to episode 536 of Fergo and the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can follow me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. Join me as always is the glorious LeagueFreak. You can also find on Twitter at LeagueFreak. How you going there, mate?
I'm going pretty well, Andrew. I've just watched the Penrith Panthers win a game against South Sydney.
Gonna say, you self-checked yourself there very early.
Why?
You're about to explain how you were feeling and you went, pause, very well.
Yeah.
Tell us what you really think.
Well, normally I'm great, but no. People always think I'm fucking angry.
Yeah, angry. Yeah, obviously angry.
It's so ridiculous.
What's got your goat?
If I had a fucking dollar for... You know what makes me fucking angry is when people say you're fucking angry. It's like, no, I wasn't fucking angry until you started with your fucking bullshit. Anyway, I'm going pretty well. How are you?
Yeah, mate, I'm pissed off.
What about?
Let's see. Let's go with the obvious, stupid fucking thing, and that is Michael Chamas' article about the West Tigers splitting apart.
Yeah, well, he did a big interview with the old, a 79-year-old dude in the hospital.
Which one was that?
That's the Balmain dude that he talked to. He was in the hospital when he talked to him.
Is this the guy who was Harry Triggerboff? The bloke who was always sponsoring from Meriton Apartments?
No, it was whoever the Balmain fucking dude was that sort of was not happy in that article.
Oh, Gary Leo?
Yeah, it might have been him, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Shall we go through the article?
Yeah, let's go through well, we should give some backstory. So the headline was that Balmain is no longer happy with the joint venture and they're going to pull out of the joint venture, which is like losing a toenail that you slammed about 3 weeks ago and it falls off and it says, I'm out of here. It's like, all right.
See, given the status of the Balmain club in the joint venture, I think the entire toenail might be too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you might, I get this at work anyway, instead of actually just having the whole thing come off.
Yeah.
I'm talking fingernails now. You get a bit of a split down the middle where if it was just a little bit too long and you just catch it a little bit in the wrong spot when you go to pick something up, the fingernail twist, you get a little split down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
It just becomes inconvenient. You got to try and cut it back really hard to get to the point where the split stops.
Yeah.
So it doesn't start catching. That's kind of where we're talking. The clipping that you've cut off, that's the bit that's gone. We're free now.
Exactly.
We're going to create a whole new human being from this tiny little sliver of nail. No, it's just not going to work. No. Here he is. He says the Balmain board is set to call a crisis meeting to discuss removing the club from the joint venture with Western Suburbs in an ambitious bid to go it alone that could spell the end of the West Tigers. Now, never has the word ambitious done so much heavy lifting in an entire paragraph.
That's a very good point.
My goodness. In a move that will send shockwaves through the NRL, it won't. Frustrated Balmain, they're not. Directors are preparing to call a vote, no they're not, on their involvement in the merger and be concerned, no there isn't, over decisions being made by the club's majority owner, no there isn't, the Holman Barnes Group. Now, the Holman Barnes Group are basically West Ashfield. I know they're separate to that, but it's basically coming from the same area.
Yeah.
I'll stop interrupting you. This article is just stupid. So, Balmain director and former player Gary Leo told this masthead.
Ooh.
That's in there. See, now you know it's important. On Thursday that he and his fellow board members had, in quotation marks, lost faith in HBG and was calling on fellow directors to endorse the end of the troubled joint venture 25 years after it was established.
To what end?
Well, Balmain's.
Yeah, like it's. I just don't understand what they are really aiming for here because, and look, I think that this is just some upset old Balmain people who just been silly, you know, because like if the joint venture split, it would be the West Tigers run by West Ashfield, which is what it is exactly right now. Like,
Correct.
I think if Balmain said, we want to change the socks the team uses, I don't think they'd have the power to do that.
They'd probably get approval to increase the amount of black, so long as it came at a reduction in the amount of orange on the sock.
Yeah.
That's about all. That's about all they get.
Yeah. So,
it says, Leo said, I really believe the time has come for us to step aside and resurrect the Balmain Tigers. We've got more of a following than the west side of the merger. To be honest, we have lost faith in them. We're getting Leichhardt Oval upgraded.
when?
Sorry.
It's been waiting for a fucking upgrade since 1960.
I think he's referring to the $40 million that the Albanese government is tipping into it. Let's be clear, that's not going to be an upgrade. That's going to be repairs. And it's not going to be all the repairs. Let's also make that clear.
Yeah, and as I said with the Panthers Stadium, which I was right about, nothing's happened until they start digging fucking dirt.
That's right. We're getting Leichhardt Oval upgraded, and we could play there every second week. Now, here comes the moment of truth in his quote.
Okay.
If we can find the right backers...
You know who'd be a good backer? Fucking West Ashfield, huh?
We want a shot at returning to the NRL. I don't think the NRL will continue to allow the West Tigers to operate with the Tigers name without any involvement from Balmain. I really do believe the NRL competition needs a Tigers team and not the West Tigers.
So, as if the NRL is going to say, oh no, the token part of the joint venture has decided to walk away from this, and the people that always had the money and the members and the juniors, they're still there though, but we're going to take their IP off them that's been established for 25 plus years because we think this other mob who doesn't have anything, maybe one day they'll be in the competition. That is so stupid. You know, that's somebody that is clinging to something that's unrealistic. And that sort of person shouldn't be on a board of any sort.
Agreed.
I don't think.
So, I think there's still more to the article. I think what's happened here is Michael Chammas is either bored or stupid.
Well, isn't he the one that started writing all the articles about all these NRL players that are like, oh, they're unhappy, and then the players were like, I'm not unhappy.
I think so.
Yeah.
Right. So, as I said, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say he's either bored or stupid. He can pick either one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Intelligent is not one of them, though.
Oh, no.
Right. Good at his job is also not another one.
No. He's a journalist. He's not good at being a journalist. None of them are.
He's even failed at that.
Yeah.
So, because what he's done here is he's gone, right, what's a non-story I can try and turn into a story? And is there someone who I can find that is disgruntled with an issue, you know, something old.
And then he literally called the guy in hospital.
And then call him up and then have a conversation with them to get them to express their viewpoint. And then try and link in the most feeble way possible any sort of extenuating circumstance which might add some sort of validity or credence to the story. And so here's that part now. The current licensing agreement between the NRL and the club expires at the end of the season.
If I was the West Ashfield, Balmain would be out. I'd say, you want out, you're out.
I don't know. See, I think it's better to be a massive troll, especially when you're the daddy. You're the one with the cash. I just go, if I was West Ashfield, I'd just go up to the NRL and say, yeah, put us down for another 10 years for the West Tigers. What are you going to do about it, Balmain?
Look, well, that's exactly what I would do. I would say, look, I'd relieve Balmain of their obligation to the...
No, leave them in there. They've got no option. They have to just come along with it.
Oh, yeah. So
just drag them in.
But like it is silly to think that the NRL are going to would say that the West Tigers would have to change their logo because Balmain wasn't involved in it. Like they're part of the joint venture is so tenuous. It is so minute. It is tokenism. And, they're just lucky that their logo was the more marketable one. It was between a tiger and a magpie. And, you put both of them in front of a 5-year-old and say, which one's cooler? They're always going to go for the tiger, and that's why it was a tiger. Like if the West Magpies were called the Wests, I don't know.
Frogs.
Like frogs.
No, that's exactly right, though.
But yeah, and that's the only reason. Like, colours would
also, especially at the time of the merger. And look, let's not go too bogged down in how shit the financial aspect of Balmain is now, because it's non-existent.
Yeah, it's just...
But at the time of the merger, Balmain were the ones bringing the cash to the table when the merger first began.
Yeah.
And they had the better roster. And they were looking after the pathways for juniors a bit better than West were at the time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of circumstances outside of the playing football aspect goes anyway at Balmain is what led to them being completely broke. Any Elias. So that's why they're in the situation they're in now. But right now they are in a shit position where they don't have a leagues club. They don't have a reserve grade team in the New South Wales Cup. Right? They've got next to no presence as a football club in senior football.
Mm.
Actually, I don't think they have any presence in senior football other than their tenuous leaguers with the West Tigers.
And their whole idea is like, but we've got Leichhardt Oval and you could add another team in fucking inner Sydney. How cool would that be? Everyone wants that.
So here's the issue that Chamis has failed to consider when writing this article. Because, as I said, he's either bored or stupid. And I'm tending to lean towards him being just stupid. Is if the West Tigers or the West Magpies... No. If the West Tigers do not get approved for the NRL license,
mm-hmm.
the NRL is not going to say, okay, West Magpies, we want you to take up the license. The NRL is going to go, you beauty, we've got rid of another Sydney team.
Yeah,
let's get another team. We're going to put Perth in now.
Yeah.
And that's what will happen.
But the idea that the NRL is the sort of competition where, a license comes up and they've got currently a 17-team competition that they've got to provide to a broadcaster, and the license comes up for any club. Could be anyone. Could be the Panthers. And the NRL goes, you better justify yourself or we'll get rid of you. It's like that just isn't how the system works.
No.
Like the licensing system is there so that if you get a team that is in like a crazy like I think of something like, say, the Newcastle Knights when they had an owner that the NRL understood it was probably best if they weren't the owner anymore.
Yes.
They were able to transfer the license to someone else.
Yeah.
So that's what the license is. The license is basically a legal thing that there's an ownership of that license and it can be transferred if needed, but it's not an actual, it's not like a car license where you've got to keep going back and getting your eyes tested,
That's right.
Like next year, the NRL has to provide broadcasters with a 17-team competition. They're not just going to get rid of the West Tigers at the end of the year. There would have to be something even worse than the West Tigers have been, which is pretty damn bad.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea that this license issue is an issue at all is fucking ridiculous in its own right.
Correct.
Like it is just a formality.
And so if the NRL said, right, if the Magpies and the Tigers can't come to an agreement about being the West Tigers anymore, then we're just going to say, you know what, we don't need any more Sydney teams. Canterbury can take the Western Suburbs region. The Bulldogs are going to go, you fucking beauty.
Yeah.
And they'll say, we'll let Perth be the Tigers.
Yeah.
And Perth can decide between being the Tigers or the Bears. We know which way they'll lean there.
Yeah.
That's all will happen. They'll just go, we'll just take another team outside of Sydney because that's what they need to do. that's exactly what they will do. They're not going to sit there and muck around and just let Balmain come back because Balmain wants to be. And you don't even have to understand NRL at its absolute core. I recognise that. I speak to people here in Victoria who heard about this being in the news, and they said to me, "What's this all about?"
Mm-hmm.
And so I say to them, "Oh, this is basically this, what I just said there." And they go, "How many clubs are there in Sydney?" That's what they immediately go to.
Yeah,
because they pair it up with the similarities that you've got in Melbourne. You know, how many AFL teams you got in Melbourne? Basically, too many. If there's an opportunity to get rid of one and put one somewhere else in Australia, fuck yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They did it with the Lions down here, moving up to Brisbane, so on and so forth, and they just start moving out where they can. So yeah, it's utter bollocks, the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
And to think that Balmain have anything at all whatsoever to give themselves as, some sort of fucking massive thumbs up, we should be the ones that get the next bloody license over anybody else, is delusion beyond delusion. It's insane.
But the Balmain Tigers are all but gone.
Yeah.
And
this breaks it down. It says here, the Balmain side owns 10% of the West Tigers, with the other 90% owned by the Holman Barnes Group, of which 30% of that group is owned by the Magpies. So that means that 60% of the West Tigers is basically owned by the Holman Barnes Group / West Ashfield.
Mm.
HBG acquired 15% of Balmain's previous year in 2019 when it agreed to pay off Balmain's $3.2 million debt to the NRL. You want to go on your own. That club, that group that you don't want to be a part of anymore and you don't like, paid off your $3.2 million debt? Yeah. How's about HBG, the Holman Barnes Group, go to Gary Leo and say, you know what? That $3.2 million of the Balmain's debt, how's about you pay us back for that? You personally, we've got no issue with the Balmain Tigers. If you've got an issue with us, you can just give us our money back.
Yeah.
And we'll happily let you go about your business. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of that fucking garbage. The Balmain chairman, Danny Stapleton, came out the day after this stupid story came out, and he said, "That's not true. We don't plan on leaving the West Tigers at all." No, wait, I'm not surprised. Danny Stapleton said, "I've spoken to my board. Balmain is fully supportive of the joint venture with the Holman Barnes Group, the West Magpies Group, and more importantly, the West Tigers. We want nothing but sustained success for the West Tigers, and we have a wonderful working relationship with Holman Barnes. I've spoken to every single board member, and every board member has told me it is not true. We are solid as a rock. I really believe the time has come for us to step aside and resurrect the Balmain Tigers," said Leo. That's just a mad, mad line.
Yeah, with what?
The crazy part is, this is the crazy bit. Tigers legend Benny Elias said of Gary Leo's comments that they are delirious. When you can't get Benny Elias on your side on a madcap scheme, you know it's too far.
He is Captain Delirious.
That's right.
He's so delirious.
Even he's gone, Gaz, just ease up, buddy. Okay, just settle down.
Yeah, it was silliness, and and everyone pointed that out, and I'm sure the journalist involved is very proud to have that on his fucking list of stories that he's made up.
Now, the other part of the story that comes out of this, and probably linked to it as well, was there was a report also during the week that the West Tigers chairman, Barry O'Farrell, would have to reapply for his position, and apparently he got a bit salty and sooky about it, and I don't want to be with the club anymore if we're going to reapply. It's kind of how boards work, pal.
Yeah, they're not jobs for life. This isn't politics, man.
Yeah.
This is that's how the job is, and
so not that I've had any issue with Barry O'Farrell up to this point, but if he's going to carry on like that, he can fuck off as well.
Yeah, just go away. Yeah, anyone can be a chairman. We've seen that. So, especially the West Tigers.
Oh yeah, Spuds, hats. We've had them all.
Man, like when you think of some of the chairmen of the West Tigers, like remember when the worst thing you could say about the chairman was like that? Remember the one that used to love just having morning tea after morning tea?
No, that wasn't Steve Noyce. Was it Steve Noyce?
No.
Steve Noyce wasn't too bad.
No, it was Mariana Go.
Oh.
She used to love a morning tea.
Oh, fuck, I forgot about it.
Club was ran into the ground, but she would be at every morning tea.
See, Steve Noyce is one of those blokes who prided himself on his ability to fix a fuck up. So he helped West Tigers turn themselves around at the very start when they had the whole Terry Lamb saga when he was coach there. He sort of helped them get back on, back heading in the right direction and moving forwards. And he moved on from that role. I think he went to the Roosters when they were struggling. I know that he went to the Sharks during when they got absolutely pounded by all of the Shane Flanagan era.
Yeah.
The asterisks.
Yep. The Asada scandal.
That's the one. He was there when that kicked off and they were struggling like all hell. And he jumped in there as an interim CEO to help them get over that process, and he helped them through it, told them to accept whatever punishment was coming their way, just accept it instead of dragging it out, and so we can just put it behind us and move forward, which is always the smartest thing to do.
Yeah. Especially when you're fucking guilty of all charges.
So it was, he's always been pretty good in that area, but yeah, is it Marina or Mariana? I can't remember.
I think it was Mariana Go. I think that was her name.
She was,
yeah. It's been quite a list that the West Tigers have put together, really.
Yeah. It's amazing how people still think you're the angry one. You look at all the shit I've had to deal with from my club.
Yeah, it is fucking weird, hey?
Even when you go back and think of the Matthew Elliott days, you're going, yeah, even they didn't last as long as the shit that the Tigers have gone through.
No, that was a blip. It was a fucking blip. We come second one year under that goofball. Do you know what I found? Because I've been clearing out some old shit that I've been keeping for years and years. And when he was the coach, I used to buy and sell a lot of stuff on eBay, right?
Yep.
And one day I saw a thing and it was like a sports fan's voodoo doll, right? And I was going to put together a funny article where I made it into Matthew Elliott. And once I got it in hand, I was like, this feels a bit too real now. I feel like I'm crossing some weird line here. This is going too far. So I didn't end up doing it. But I found it the other day and it brought back memories. And so I drank herbal tea. I bought some wind chimes. I burned some incense. And it was just fucked. I hated every second of it.
Oh, that sounds hard.
Could you imagine me and Matthew Elliott in the same room?
Yeah, all of those suggestions that you keep denying about you being angry would absolutely get pissed up the wall.
Yeah, they would. I reckon me and Matthew Elliott would be the complete opposite of things. Like he'd be like, "Don't you ever think like the world is all connected and we're all one and stuff?" And I'd be like, "That sounds like bullshit."
All I can think of is if you two are in the same room together.
Yeah.
It would remind me of possibly a Mortal Kombat fatality. One of those gruesome ones from the more recent games where you might be just slamming his head into the ground over and over and over again until his brain gets sucked out because it's just melted into the dirt. And you get up and walk away going, I'm done with this fucking thing.
I feel like the whole incident would just remind me of a Mike Tyson quote at a press conference that I can't repeat. Yeah. So go through all of his press conferences. You'll eventually find one.
Oh, dear. What else has been going on in the world?
Well, the Panthers run is over. I've been seeing a lot of that lately, and talking about like their poor. I think it's fair to say they've been in poor form recently. They've obviously lost Nathan Cleary until the finals, and it might be week 2 of the finals if they're there. So, well, they've secured a top 4 place tonight, so they'll definitely be there for at least week 2 of the finals. But it's interesting to see a team at this point of a run like they've had, because I've never seen it. So everything is new, and you're kind of waiting. It's weird. You're waiting for their run to end, and you're always wondering, like, is this how it ends? Like, is this the thing? And you don't know. I don't know. I've never seen it before. So it's interesting to watch. It's sad to watch as well, definitely. But, how sad can you get when you've seen all of the amazing stuff they've done and experienced it as a fan? So it's an interesting point, because I think I was looking at a thing where the Melbourne Storm are one of the top sides, and I don't know how far back they went. I think it was only since 1998, random date. I don't know why they picked 1998.
Oh, hang on, quotation marks. NRL era.
Yeah, that sort of thing, where it was their biggest loss was over the whole season had been 8 points so far, and I think that the top clubs were like Penrith had their biggest loss in 2020 was like 6 points, which is outrageous, and I can't remember what the top club was.
Are they saying that, as in, their biggest loss this year is 8 points, and that's the best any club's ever done since '98?
No, it was like the 3rd or 4th best. I think it was the 4th best. I think it equaled what Penrith had done over the last couple of years, but then Penrith had also lost by like only 6 points, as was their biggest loser margin in 2020. But I feel like there was someone ahead of them, and I just can't remember who it was, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the Storm have lost by, their biggest loss this year was 7 points to the Sharks.
Yeah.
The Sharks who never beat a top 8 side. The media's dropped that narrative pretty fucking fast, haven't they?
Yeah.
Don't need that one anymore.
It's like if it wasn't for the Panthers run, we'd be looking at this Storm run and being like, holy crap, what a season they're having. But because of the Panthers run, we're not looking at the Storm season in the same way. And I find that interesting in itself. So, and the other thing is, I guess, is if you look at the Panthers side and who they do have going forward, like if they don't win this year, next year they're one of the top 3 teams definitely to win the premiership. So it's not like they're going to just disappear,
Yeah.
But it's all really interesting to see, because we haven't seen a team have this sort of success for this long, really, going back to the Parramatta Eels. And I was way too young to really take that all in. So
I'm just looking at the stats for those losses.
Yeah.
For Penrith last year.
Yeah.
Their last loss of the year against Parramatta was their worst loss for the year. They lost by 14 points.
Yeah.
Their other 5 losses that year, 2 were by 1 point, 1 was by 2 points, and the other 2 were by 4 points.
That's crazy. That's fucking crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had other bigger losses in the 3 years prior.
Yeah.
But
I thought it was 2020 that it had like their biggest loss was 6 points.
Yeah, they had 2 losses there by 6 points,
which is insane.
Which also beats that record that they mentioned.
Yeah.
Oh, but they lost the grand finals. I suppose that doesn't count. I was talking about premiers, I guess.
No, it was just talking about regular season.
Oh, okay. So it's happened. So yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the last team to do vastly better than that was St. George in 1959.
Yeah.
Where they just didn't get beat at all.
Yeah, well, that's what it comes down to. That's why I'm thinking they probably did the that fucking ridiculous term, the NRL era, which isn't an era.
I dare say it's also because they didn't want to go and do any more research since 98. So it's just going to be too much hard work. But...
Probably. I wish I had $1 for every time somebody talked about rugby league history and they couldn't even tell you what year the NRL started.
I like the random comments I sometimes get from people who complain about how the NRL is a different competition to the New South Wales Rugby League, ARL, and how they're not aligned.
Yeah.
And one's not a precursor to the other. And all I say is, how do you explain how all the teams that were in the NRL, or nearly all of them anyway, had also been exactly the same, including players, coaches, and administrators, the year before when the NRL didn't exist?
Yeah, it's a completely linear competition.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing how that happens. It's almost like it's the same thing. But, what would I know?
Look, when I posted a couple of weeks ago about how there is no NRL era, and you and me talked about this on the website a few months ago, how you've got like the different eras, the 10-metre era, and then you go back to the limited tackle era, but prior to that it's probably World War II for no real reason, but you can sort of delineate that, and then from there I guess it's to World War I, and then it's the start of the game really. But like I would have people say really crazy things like, well, rugby league wasn't really professional until 1998. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? The game was professional in 1895. Like, that's the point. It's the fucking point.
I tell you, these are facts, okay?
Yes.
There are 4 eras in the entire history of Australian Rugby League.
Okay.
Right. There's what's called Foundation, 1908-09.
Yes.
Consolidation, which is 1910 to 1981. The way these eras work is about the teams, not so much about the rules or the administration in place.
Okay.
So 1910 to 1981 is the consolidation. It's where the chopping and changing of teams is reduced. We get down to a set competition with set boundaries everywhere.
Yeah.
And we start moving towards growing the game within that area so that we can start expanding.
It was only additions then.
That's right.
Okay.
There was a few ins and outs. So we had Annandale University. They both came in and went out, and Glebe also left in 1929.
So it's bullshit basically.
Then? No. Right. And then we had decentralisation, 1982 to 1996.
Yeah.
We stopped being a Sydney comp. And then we have rationalisation. That starts with the Super League War in 1997 and goes through to the present day. That's where we go from the 370 million teams we had during the Super League War. We got it down to a more feasible number.
What do we have? We had 22 teams.
Yes.
They wanted to get down to, at one point, they wanted to get down to 12.
That's right. And they wanted to do the 12th by 98.
Yeah, they wanted to do it overnight, basically. That becomes silly. And so they rationalised it over a couple of years. They were going to go down to 12. They decided on 14.
Yes.
And so then it ended up being, it was 14, but then it ended up being 16 when Souths were added. So they knew 15.
No, it was 15, yeah.
Yeah, and then that 16th team was obviously the Titans because it's better to have even numbers.
Yeah, that's why they brought the Dolphins in.
Yeah. Well, they're going to sort that out. But okay, so with the eras you pointed out, who sets those?
That is from a book that Alan Whitaker and Ian Collis wrote about the history of rugby league clubs.
Yeah.
And those are, I've seen those mentioned in other books by other people.
Okay.
It's not official, but that tends to be the way people look at the game. So it starts out with how the game started, how it got itself organised in a manner so that it could start moving towards expansion, which slowly happened. we had two teams coming in the 20s.
Yeah.
We had one leave in the 20s, another one leave in the 30s. And then that's when the leaving stopped. We then had two teams come in the 40s, two more came in the 60s. So we started to settle down. We started to get ourselves set on that team. We had a pretty good spread across Sydney by the 1960s. Because we went down as far as Cronulla. We were out to Penrith. We had Western Suburbs. We had Manly and North. We covered the wider parts of Sydney at that stage, as well as still having teams in the centre. So all of Sydney was covered nicely. And then, during that post-World War II phase, they got to those growing areas of the edges of the Melbourne's boundaries Sydney boundaries at that stage. And as the population continued to grow during the 60s and 70s, they realised that there's more than enough teams now in Sydney, but there's also all this extra population going on outside of Sydney, and we need to tap into that if we're going to start making this game get any bigger. But just as they're about to do that, when they brought in Penrith and Cronulla, the game turned to, on the field, just turned to an absolute fucking dog's breakfast, and they had to clean it up first.
Yeah.
That's what happened in the back end of the 70s, early 80s. And they did a similar thing in 1981, 82, 83, as they did during the Super League War. And that is, they just came out with a hardline thing and said, right, if you are not financially up to scratch, you're going to get cut. You've got a year to get your shit together. Otherwise, you're gone. And
that was really like you say, during the Super League era, because there's three different points that's happened. As you say, it happened basically it was an idea from the very late 70s, early 80s, and then it was the early 80s where they really said, listen, there's going to be some teams that are going to die. There's going to be some teams that are added. That's going to be a natural process, and you either get yourself up to standard or you get left behind, right? And then that was carried through a lot because it was the New South Wales Rugby League that was running the main comp. And then they went into becoming the Australian Rugby League eventually.
Yes.
And that idea of that was carried through to the early 90s as well, where they were very aggressive with expansion. And that's where we ended up with Auckland, North Queensland, Southeast Queensland, and who was the other one?
Western Reds.
Western Reds, that's right. They all come in the same year. Yep. And the idea, and they kept saying to clubs, listen, we're expanding. You either keep up or you die off. And just as that happened, Super League kicked in and everything just went out the window. Like there were no plans or anything.
Yeah.
But then the next time clubs were warned was after the Super League war had happened, and they brought the 97 competitions back together again as one. And they said, look, there's too much. This all costs too much money. We're rationalising everything, and there's going to be 12 teams. And then they said 14, and they did get to 14.
Yep.
And then Souths come back in the competition through legal action, which actually the NRL went back to court. They won, could have kicked Souths out again, but realised it wasn't worth the hassle at that point.
Everyone likes watching Souths get big,
Oh, Andrew, your fucking bias is showing.
Never forget 1909.
Isn't it interesting, though, that the NRL went back to court and won? And that's a really important court case for them to win, because if something terrible happened, Souths, when they got kicked out, were an absolute basket case. Like, they did deserve to get kicked out.
Oh, yeah.
And, if a club falls to that level, where it is just this drag of a team that is dragging down the competition, the NRL needs to have the ability to kick them out if they need to. I don't think they will need to in this day and age. So I think we've moved to a different sort of era of not only money in the game, but administration and stuff and we've seen it with the West Tigers. The West Tigers have been putridly run for so long, but you get handed $10 million every year by the NRL. You're not about to go broke.
No, it doesn't matter. Clubs aren't going to go broke these days.
Yeah, no.
You just can't.
Just be impossible, really.
Yeah. It does make me wonder, going all the way back to what you started with and talking about, whether Penrith are, whether they've peaked and now they're going to stop being the premiers.
Yeah.
And how other teams have looked when they had that first year after that run of premierships, how they looked.
Yeah.
So the last run was, as you mentioned, Parramatta. So after they won the premiership in, was it 86 they won?
That was their last one.
Yeah. So 1987, remember, there was 13 teams in the 80s.
So where did Parramatta, because they won 3, and then they had a break, and then they won 1, right? So where did they finish from? So they come first 3 times in a row, but then what happened? Where did they finish the next year when they didn't win it?
Okay, so they were premiers in 81, 82, 83. They were runners-up in 84.
Okay.
1985, they reached the preliminary final.
Yeah.
So the final 3. I think that's correct. Yeah, they lost to Canterbury in the preliminary final, so Canterbury ended up playing St George in the grand final. And then in 1986, they were minor premiers, and then they won the grand final.
Okay.
And then the following year, finished 7th.
That's a fall.
And then the following year, 11th.
Yeah, and then it was over.
And then 89 and 90, 8th, both years.
Keep in mind it wasn't a top 8, it was a top 5.
That's right. And then it fell apart badly.
Yeah.
Second last, 91, 92, and then they were 11th in 93, 12th in 94, 19th in 95, 13th in 96, and then it wasn't until the competition fell apart that they managed to get back into the top 8. They were 6 years in a row they were in the finals, 97 to 2002.
So it's interesting. So let's say, for instance, Penrith lose, because they're in the top 4 definitely.
Yep.
So let's say they go out in straight sets. And you would basically say they finished top, what would you say? You'd say they finished in the top 4.
Yep.
I guess.
Yep.
And then they come back next year and they finish in the top 4 again. And then they come back the following year and win a premiership. That would basically be around about what the Parramatta Eels did.
Yeah.
Which, look, it shows how difficult it is. Like, we've seen teams win 1 premiership and you get to, like, this point in their premiership defence and they just look tired. Yeah. And I get it. Every single week, you are the team to beat. Everyone's gunning for you. We've seen it very much this year, I think more than any year, where Penrith lose a game and and it's like the opposition have won at some sort of title. Like last week when Penrith lost to Canberra, like everyone was out in the field celebrating and stuff like that. And I don't begrudge them that. Like some people do. I don't.
When you've got a team that's been as dominant for as long as Penrith have, in consecutive seasons as well, anyone who beats Penrith feels like they've just won a premiership because it's an absolute feat to have achieved that.
Yeah.
Unless it's the West Tigers who have done it a few times. It's just normal. Like, basically, that's just Saturday.
Them and Parramatta.
Parramatta, yeah. We just sit there going, you know what? We don't care about the fact we're coming last and second last. We just like to, just basically mock everybody else and just say, Penrith's not that big of a drama. Yeah, we can do them pretty easy. Don't worry about them. I don't know what you guys are struggling with. It's all the rest of you teams that are the problem.
They sit back in like the first weekend of October and they sit there going, see that team there? Fucking beat them this year.
Yeah, beat them. That makes us better than them. We're the grand premiers.
Oh, man.
Now, speaking of crazy terms for games.
Yes.
I don't know who started it or where it came from, but for the last 2 weeks we've been hearing about Parramatta v the West Tigers being the Spoon Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a dumb term.
Why?
A Spoon Bowl, basically, that's just a really large spoon. That's basically a ladle. And ladle's just a big fancy spoon. So now we're back at spoon. So we've made the bowl part redundant.
But a spoon bowl would be the bowl.
Yeah, either way, we're making one of the two things redundant, aren't we?
Well, what would you call it?
The grand end.
The grand end?
Yeah, because it's at the other end of the ladder.
I see. Instead of grand final, the grand end.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
And that way, it's also like peak Australian sarcasm.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking about something being between the two worst performing outfits and calling it grand. We should call it the grand end. Every year we get an opportunity to have this. Call it the grand end. Treat it like a grand final. Put on some pre-game entertainment. But instead of having like some world-class, rock band or pop musician, whatever, come out, get a bunch of fifth graders with recorders out there.
Make it as terrible as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. No sound checks and no microphones for any band out there. No amps.
But
get them out there and just hear ting, 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 ting as they're going through the notes on the guitar.
And the only song they play over the speakers is Sweet Caroline over and over again.
I'm fine with that. They can do the chorus and just the chorus only.
Just the chorus, yeah.
When they do the national anthem, only sing the second verse, not the first one. See, and that would work. Who would not watch that? That'd be fantastic.
You know what the real problem is? I can tell you what the real problem is with it.
Mm.
We have a name for the final showdown between two shitty rugby league clubs. It's called the Super League Grand Final.
Should we call it the Grand Super League?
The Grand Super League Grand Final.
How's about the winner of the Super League Grand Final comes over and plays the loser of the Grand End?
I just don't want to see any of them play.
No, instead of having the World Club Challenge where they play against Australia's premier side,
they
come around and they play against come over here and they play against our Grand End side.
Yeah, why not? They love a trophy. Anything for a trophy at some weird point of the year.
Yeah, well, they can get I don't know. Maybe they can get a chopping board as a trophy. Just a plastic one from Kmart.
Yeah, that'd work.
And just get someone with a text to write on there, winner.
What was the trophy that I think it was maybe the Pacific Championship.
Yeah, it was made out of, looked like a wooden serving tray.
Yeah.
That. I mean, I get what they're trying to do, but it didn't look trophy-ish.
It didn't work out, did it? It looked like...
Reminds you
of something you'd see in a hotel lobby on a long table full of fruit. It's like, you should see the mangoes they have. They're quite fresh.
It looks
mango season already? I don't know. But they've got mangoes here.
It looks a bit like some of those Formula One trophies that you sometimes just see getting handed out.
Yeah, some of them are pretty crook.
They are not great. Now, I don't know if you've heard. Today they brought out the...
I heard. No, go on. I don't know what you're going to say.
The 2024 Pacific Championships draw has been announced.
Yeah.
Have you heard and seen how this thing is structured?
Look, I was going to look into it.
Okay.
But having watched last year's one and not knowing what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, look, I think the people who came up with the Super 8 system, they've found new employment.
Okay.
Now, I haven't read too much into this, so this is going to be first for both of us. Here we go. All I heard, all I've been told, is promotion and relegation plays a part.
Of course.
Here we go. The National Rugby League today announced the draw for the 24 championships played in 4 countries across 4 consecutive weekends in October and November. It will see the introduction of promotion relegation with the winner of the men's and women's Pacific Bowls to play off against the third place Pacific Cup nations for a place in their 2025 Pacific Cup pools. Are you with me?
No, I'm gone. My name is LeagueFreak, and I don't care anymore. So continue for all of the people that would consider themselves more rugby league fans than I am. Because if I don't give a fuck, there must be a whole world of people that also do not give a fuck. But continue.
Fiji will host the championship matches for the first time as the event expands further into the Pacific in 2024, as well as including Port Moresby, Brisbane, Christchurch, Auckland and Sydney. NRL's token South African Andrew Abdo said the introduction, I don't know why they put that in there.
They didn't put that in there. Oh, by the way, go on. I've got some South African news for you, but go on.
Write it down so you don't forget. This could be wordy.
Yeah.
Said the introduction of promotion relegation adds extra significance to each contest following the success of the maiden championships in 2023. Here's his quote: "The 2024 Pacific Championships will be the biggest sporting event in the region. This year we have raised the stakes by adding promotion relegation." They just said that before.
Yeah.
Across the men's and women's tours, so there is a great deal at stake in the Pacific Championships. We've just said the same thing 3 times over.
It's like going to James Hooper on the sideline when you see a player get knocked out and leave the field, and he says, "Oh yeah, Matt Burton's left the field." It's like, yeah, we watched that, you idiot, you bald dope.
This is the thing I like. Says Abdo said in the article, and then they go to quote him saying what he said. Abdo said the 2024 championships will once again serve as a reminder of the cultural significance of rugby league within the Pacific communities. And he's quoted as saying, "As the Pacific's largest sport, rugby league is fast becoming the language that unifies the region. The Pacific Championships is a powerful showcase and celebration of culture, connecting passionate rugby league fans in each host city and nation into one pulsating sporting community."
Oh, I'm throbbing already.
Oh, well, it's fitting that he used the word pulsating because there's a lot of wanking going on here.
Yeah.
Fans will have the opportunity to experience the unique colour and atmosphere that the Pacific Championships brings, with each venue hosting doubleheader match days to create a carnival atmosphere with local and visiting supporters.
I'm going to get fucking shit-faced at one of these games.
Oh, right. Tournament details. The men's tournament once again featured 2 divisions with top-ranked nations Australia, New Zealand and Tonga to contest the Cup, while Fiji, Papua New Guinea and Cook Islands will face off for the Bowl.
Okay. Why can't we just play games?
I don't know why we have to have 2 divisions. To me, that seems stupid. Why don't we just play every team that's in there? So why doesn't Australia play New Zealand, Tonga, Fiji, Papua New Guinea, and the Cook Islands once? Yeah. And we have a ladder, and the team that's at the top of the ladder can just be the fucking champion.
Yeah, why not? I'd be up for that.
How does that not seem easier than promotion, relegation, and 2 fucking divisions, and some person gets a cup and the other one gets a fucking toilet bowl?
Makes no sense.
Why do we have to have cutlery and crockery for?
That's a good question.
I want a fucking trophy.
Can we have it's just a trophy, just a good, honest trophy?
Fuck. Oh, man, it's not the sevens.
Exactly. The cup and the bowl.
Oh, my God.
Sounds like the start of a nursery rhyme.
Exactly. Where's the moon? Suncorp Stadium will host the Men's and Women's Cup doubleheader to kick off the championships on October 18. Fiji will host consecutive doubleheaders on Saturday, October 19 and October 26. That's not consecutive. There's 7 days between those consecutive days.
Yeah, but they're in the same year. Like, on a long enough timeline, those games are consecutive.
Okay. I'm broken.
Why is it so complicated, Andrew?
Port Moresby will welcome a Women's Cup Men's Bowl. Oh, there's too many cups and bowls.
What do the women play? Do the women play for a bowl?
No, they've got cups and bowls.
Okay.
Yeah. Got to be careful there.
I know.
Balls.
I know.
New Zealand will host its first doubleheader clash on October 27 at Apollo Project Stadium in Christchurch, followed by another doubleheader at the Go Media Stadium. For those who haven't been paying attention, that's Mount Smart. Okay. For the final pool match of the Men's Cup and the Women's Bowl decider on November the 2nd. The championships will culminate with a quadruple header at Sydney's Combank Stadium on Sunday, November 10, headlined by the Men's and Women's Cup finals.
Amazing. Well, what's the other game?
I don't know. They've then spoken to some politician from Queensland. Don't care. And the rest is just words. The Pacific Bowl is proudly supported by the Australian government through Pacific Sports.
Excellent. That'll show them commie bastards.
Tickets start at just $25 for adults and $50 for families.
Yeah, I'll remember that when I'm paying fucking $180.
Oh, man.
Why is this so complicated, Andrew?
I don't know. So here we've got the Cup for men. October 18, Australia-Tonga at Suncorp. October 27, Sunday, New Zealand-Australia at Christchurch. November the 2nd, New Zealand v Tonga at Mount Smart. November 10 is the final of the Cup. And Saturday 19th, Fiji v PNG in Fiji. And October 26th, Fiji v Cook Islands in Fiji. 3rd of November, PNG v Cook Islands in Port Moresby. Cook Islands don't get a home game.
Why not? They're
the only team in this whole shindig who don't get a home game.
They should get a home game.
Nah, fuck them. That's what the NRL said.
Yeah, that's apparently.
November 10, promotion relegation playoff. That's a mess.
It really is.
There's 6 teams. Why does it have to be so complicated?
Why not just play like you got 6 teams, right? Just put them in 2 groups of 3. They play one another, and the winners of the 2 groups go to the final. Would that be really difficult?
Well, no, but I also don't know why. It's just, why not just have 5 games? You just play each other once.
And by the way, relegation only matters when it could be for forever. And nothing in International Rugby League is forever, except for my next bit of information.
Mm-hmm.
South Africa has put its hand up to host a future Rugby League World Cup.
That's fine. I think we might have a spot available in 21-27.
Yeah. I have always said that whenever there's a World Cup around, there's some fucking guy in South Africa that says, hey, I do rugby league, and it's always bullshit. And
sorry for butting in. Is there a little bit of uncertainty around the security in South Africa at the moment, or is that past us by now?
No, that's only getting worse. That you're correct about that. It's getting worse and worse. And
let's have a look at the Smart Traveller website. This is the Australian government website with information about South Africa.
Okay.
So smarttraveller.gov.au. South Africa. Overall, exercise a high degree of caution. Latest update. 30th of August. Okay, this was just today. Protests and large gatherings can occur anywhere. Avoid areas affected by protests, demonstrations, or large public gatherings, like football games. Monitor media for updates and follow advice from local authorities. Use major roads where it's safe to do so, and verify that alternate routes recommended by a GPS are safe prior to travel. Express kidnappings happen in South Africa. Always be alert to your personal security and surroundings. We advise exercise a high degree of caution in South Africa due to the threat of violent crime. Let's have a World Cup there.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. That was spruiked during the week by the International Rugby League that South Africa have put their hand up, and it's just like clockwork.
Shall we move on?
We better.
We better. Shall we look at the rest of the games this week?
Yeah, why not?
Because we haven't missed too many, I don't think.
Well, we've already missed 3 of them.
Oh, they didn't matter though. But they weren't important matches.
Yeah.
Let's see. They were the Cowboys Storm. Cowboys are miserable. I mean, the Storm were very heavily undermanned because they chose to rest our local players and still scored 30 points against the Cowboys.
Yeah, the Cowboys are a weird team. I didn't actually get to watch this game, but when I saw the Storm lost, but they'd rested a bunch of players. I saw that Pappenhausen had picked up a lower leg contusion, which should be fine by the finals. But just any time you see, him getting any sort of injury, you worry about it. Actually, earlier tonight we saw the Manly Seagulls defeat the Canterbury Bulldogs, and they defeated them pretty well. But Tom Trbojevic picked up a shoulder injury in that, and it looks like it'll be an AC injury, which is the same injury that Nathan Cleary has. The problem is that Nathan Cleary has had a couple more weeks to get over his injury, whereas Tom is going to be pretty sketchy to be able to play with that even further finals week 1.
He won't play.
Yeah, it'd be... If he does play, he will be straight off the field. Or you just can't carry an injury like that as a fullback. So,
but you're not coming into finals footy either, because you can't really be hiding people, especially spine members.
Yeah.
You can't be hiding and playing finals footy. It's got to be all in.
Yeah.
It's okay, because Garrick has played fullback a fair bit in Tom's several absences, and he's done pretty bloody well back there.
Mm.
But they'll cover him reasonably well. But it is going to take a bit out of their attack. Garrick doesn't chime in the attack as well as Tom does, but his kick returns do tend to be... I tend to think his kick returns are just as good as Tom Trebojic's ones are. So they don't lose immensely much set by set. They just lose that finishing touch that Tom provides.
Yeah.
And the support play that he has as well, which is unmatched, really.
The thing about Tom Trbojevic is that he's at this point of his career, he has never had a memorable moment in the finals.
Yeah. And how old is he?
It's a good question. I would say that Tom Trbojevic, I would say he's 27.
In just over 1 month's time, he'll be turning 28.
There you go. He's 27.
He is indeed. That's crazy to think, man. I'm going to assume Matthew Johns would agree with me here that as a fullback, he's at his peak.
Most likely.
So that's a concern. Yeah, that's got to be really worrying for the Manly finals run. The Bulldogs' defence turned back the clock.
They were very ill-disciplined, just in their structure, and that was all it was. They just, I don't know if it was the occasion. They had a very, very big crowd there for this game. They were missing Crichton as well, which obviously he locks down one side of the field, but the discipline defensively was not there at all. And it's not the finals, but there were finals implications in this game. And they will not be happy about that sort of performance this close to the finals. Because if you play like that in the finals, you're going to get smacked, because everyone steps up in the finals. Even the bad finals teams step up in the finals. So it might be one of those things where you don't want to go into the finals on a winning streak, which is a kind of a weird thing. I was talking to Jamie about this earlier tonight. We were messaging during that game. And you don't want to get to the grand final and have a 10-game winning streak. You kind of want to have a 5 or 6 game winning streak at best.
Yeah, you don't want to have the threat of there's a loss around the corner hanging over your head, because that will cause you to lose.
I believe that's what happened and I don't think that's what happened. It's kind of was one of the things that was there to think about for the Panthers in 2020 from memory.
Yes.
They were on a really long winning streak coming in against the Storm. Not that I think that's why they lost. I think their inexperience killed them in the first 10 minutes. They were down by a lot very quickly. But it's just another thing to be in the back of your head, So maybe that's just the Bulldogs getting that out the way. The Storm got their one out the way. The Panthers in the last 2 weeks got theirs out the way. Because you don't want to be in the preliminary finals and it's like they're on a 9-game winning streak. because I don't know, it's just a thing. It's
Yeah.
a thing.
Yeah, the pressure of staying on the streak becomes too much. And the constant threat of there probably is a loss just around the corner starts getting heavier and heavier. And those two things start working together to conspire against you. And all of a sudden, little things where little bits of luck on the bounce of the ball start just going against you. And you just go, oh, fuck, here it is. And you've talked yourself into the loss before it's actually happened.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's kind of how it does. It is legitimately an entirely mental thing, but that is how it works. Yeah, and Panthers, South. We were talking about this one before we went on air, and we're saying sometimes you come across those games during a week where you're watching. If someone said to you, you've got to pick the 3 best performers for the game today, you go,
yeah.
Do I have to? I can't really. It wasn't that. It was kind of a bit.
Well, I watched it. I mean, obviously, for the most Dalian points, Nico Hines. I mean, that was clear, right?
He was stellar.
But and Isaiah Yeo was also very good in this game. And the next best guy was probably Alamotti, I would say, who's been a really good fly for the Panthers. But it was just one of those games where the Panthers, they were pretty good. They weren't great. They just kind of did the job. And Souths had their moments. But that was really it. It was a bit of a nothing game. Nadine was at this game, and she sent me a video of what must have been 100,000 moths that were attracted to the stadium lights and were just buzzing everybody in the stands.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that looked pretty rotten. I'm glad I didn't go to that game. But, yeah, it was just one of those games that it's probably good for Penrith to get a little bit of a score on anybody, but I don't think it really meant much in the grand scheme of things either.
Not at all. Penrith have now won 13 of their last 16 games against South, going back to 2018.
It's pretty amazing when you think about how many of the teams that Penrith are facing right now who used to be the teams that they were facing in preliminary finals and grand finals and stuff, who are at the other end of the table.
Yep.
With a lot of the same players as well, which is kind of strange.
Yeah. And something else you mentioned too was the Panthers' defence coming into this match had been very poor for the last 3 weeks, not like their usual standard. In the 3 games prior to the game today, they conceded 80 points. And that's their worst 3-game defensive effort since rounds 8 to 10 in 2019. And it's also worse than the West Tigers' last 3 games.
Yeah, and we've talked about the Panthers' defence, how it's the best we have both seen in our lifetimes, and by a fair margin as well. And when they're not at that extreme level, they're probably still one of the top 3 defensive teams right now.
Yep.
And on their day, they're probably the best defensive team, but you don't want to rely on their day as well.
Yeah.
But I think that their defense at the moment anyway is back to being one of the top 3 rather than, oh my God, they're so far out in front of everyone, which is what they've been for the last 3 or 4 years. And when they're not at that level, it puts more pressure on their attack. And their attack has always been a bit sketchy at times. And a lot of their attack has rolled off the back of their good defensive pressure. And, you know, they get teams stamped down on their own 20-metre line trying to get it out of there in 5 tackles. And they're not doing that as much anymore. So it means their attack is having to get the job done better. And their attack is not as good as some of their attack has never been as good as the Storm. I know that they've had their moments, but without question, even over the last 4 years, the Storm's attack is just much more better structured and, better at pulling a team apart, whereas Panthers' attack is more reliant on we have destroyed you with our defence, and when we've got the ball, you're just stuffed.
Yeah. That's just the bash them until they can't take it anymore. That's just a Bellamyism all the way through.
Yeah, yeah. I think that it's weird because, one day we'll talk about the Panthers and people bring up their defensive records and their wins and losses over this period and stuff like that. And you're going to have to say, yeah, but you had to see their defense. You had to see them doing it.
Yeah.
Like, they would have moments where they would shut everyone down every game they played, but then they would have games where they would blast you and shut you down as well.
Yeah.
So, it's been incredible to see it.
Absolutely. So tomorrow we've got Eels versus Dragons. Here's an interesting stat. Took me a while to dig this one out.
Yeah.
Didn't actually. I'm just lying. Parramatta have conceded at least 20 points in all of their last 18 NRL games.
Mm-hmm.
And the Dragons have won all of their last 9 games when they've scored at least 20 points.
Wow.
Parramatta have won 11 of their last 14 games against the Dragons. I love it when you can find a really precise niche stat like that,
mm-hmm.
where you can say, yep, everything's in favour here for the Dragons to win this game. And then you go, but on the flip side, they've got no chance.
Yeah. When something is going to break.
Yes. The Dragons should win that game, and yet still, I'm not confident that they will.
I feel the exact same way.
They were woeful last week. Admittedly, the Sharks are much better opposition than the Eels, but still, for a team that is vying to be in the finals football, they were not even in the same league as the Sharks last week.
Yeah.
It's not even a full strength Sharks side, and they still struggled. What was that?
Yeah, look, the Dragons have punched above their weight this year. They've done much better than I thought they would do. I think I picked them as wooden spooners. But, it's I don't think anyone's expecting too much of them out of the finals. But their fans, and I've been there before as a Panthers fan, they'll just be happy to be there, and I understand that.
If they make the finals,
yeah,
should we just put an asterisk next to them just because Flanagan?
Oh, 100%. Anything he does for his entire career,
asterisk.
I question it.
Yep. Dolphins v Broncos. The Broncos have won all 3 games against the Dolphins so far, with each contest producing more game points and a wider winning margin than the previous one.
Wow.
The Dolphins have conceded 5 tries or more in 8 of their last 12 games. In the other 4 games, they conceded 4 tries.
The Dolphins feel like they're doing a little bit of what they did last year, in that just the steam's gone out of them at the end. And the Broncos should win. That's going to be a gigantic game in Brisbane, though. And it's going to end one of their seasons. Yeah,
that's right. This match is do or die for both sides, and only one's going to survive. So it's going to be interesting. It's one that we have to watch because it's going to help decide who's in the race for the finals.
Yeah.
Sharks Warriors. Cronulla have won 16 of their last 22 games against the Warriors, which goes back to 2012. And they've won 60 of their last 89 games at PointsBet Stadium, which is a 67.4% success rate. And that's since 2015.
Well, look, the Warriors right now are basically a 16-man team, and they're showcasing Sean Johnson walking around the field. He's been terrible for them this year. One season too many, definitely. And, the Sharks should win that one pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, there's a fair chance that Hines will be back.
Ooh, I tell you what, he better keep them winning because they've been going all right without him.
They have. Knights v Titans. The Knights have won their last 5 games at home against the Titans, scoring 186 points at 37 points per game, and reaching 30 points in all of those 5 games. And they've won 12 of their 17 games at home in September. Now, I was going to say, I've done a bit more work on this one here. This is for Knights fans, okay? This is what you want.
Okay.
So, then obviously they need to win against the Titans, but they'll also be hoping that the Eels will beat the Dragons, and the Dolphins beat the Broncos, and the Roosters beat the Raiders. And then next week, the Knights will need to beat the Dolphins, while also relying on the Raiders to beat the Dragons to help them make it into the top 8. Otherwise, they're done. There's a little bit of mathematical about it.
There is.
But you know what? I like mathematical.
I'll be going out of my way to not watch this game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be absolutely shitful to watch.
Yeah.
But I might watch it for the lols.
If there are two teams that are of zero consequence in the 2024 National Rugby League competition, it's these two.
Yeah. Although I'm kind of going for Knights, Dolphins, Broncos. I don't care. I just want to see at least one of them get to 8th so the Dragons don't make the finals.
All I know is that no matter what Kieran Foran does, the commentators will say what a great player he's been, even if he's been completely shit and cost them the game.
Yes. He's been stellar.
He's been magnificent over his whole career. It's like, really? What's he done since he left the fucking Sea Eagles?
Got injured. Final game of the round, Roosters v Raiders. The Raiders have won their last 3 games against the Roosters in Sydney. The Roosters, though, had won 18 of the 20 games against the Raiders in Sydney prior to that, which goes from 1992 to 2019. 14 of the last 20 games between these sides has had a margin of less than 10 points.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, the pea-hearted Raiders definitely played great last week against the Panthers and got a really gutsy win. So I don't think this is going to be a walkover for the Roosters. I could see the Raiders winning this one.
I wouldn't be surprised as well. So, interesting one. And most importantly, Tigers have got the bye. So if the Dragons do beat the Eels have got Spoon.
Yeah. What a turnaround.
And next week's going to be the grand end.
Did you see the thing this week where it was more media bullshit because they don't live in the real world, right? So they were saying, Jason Rolls doesn't want to play Gutherson at fullback, which, if you're a good coach, you wouldn't want to play Gutherson at fullback. So they were saying he might play at lock. They're looking at him as a lock. And it's like, do you realize how fucking stupid it is to be trying to shoehorn somebody into a position that they haven't played before in fucking August for football that you're going to be playing in March next year? It's so stupid.
Oh, I so want to see this.
I think honestly he'll be like Isaiah Yeo in that he will be a bipedal male, and that's it. There will be no other comparisons.
Are you sure we can't try and talk it up a bit more? Try and convince the Parramatta higher ups that it's definitely the right thing to do. Trent, mate, you listening? I know you're listening, mate. I wouldn't just put Gutho at lock. I think you need to go and put him in the front row. Can you imagine having that footwork and that silky ball skills in the middle of the field? Oh, mate, come on.
What I would do is I would hire out a theatre, right? And I would bring everyone in, all the Parramatta hierarchy. You got Jason Riles, you got fucking Nathan Brown and his daughter. All the important people are there.
The bus. The bus.
Yeah, the bus. And then I sit them down and I start playing like a video on the screen. It's like Ray Price, like Jason Smith, Daniel Wagon. And then that's it. And I'd be like, end of presentation.
Any questions? No? Actually, what you could do is what we alluded to in our last episode. We could have our Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
It just could be Eels locks. You just have those 4 heads there.
They're just them, yeah. Who would be the Parramatta Eels Mount Rushmore?
Sterlo, Kenny and Sterlo.
It'd
be Ray Price.
It'd have to be Ray Price, right?
Yep.
Kenny, Sterlo.
Yep. Daniel Wagon. Probably Hindi, I guess. Nathan Highmarsh.
Would he get ahead of Eric Groth Sr.?
Yeah.
You reckon?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think amongst Parramatta diehards, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I mean, and people that know about rugby league, not Parramatta diehards.
Oh, Dick Thornett. Or
Dick
Ken
Thornett.
Or
Yes.
Ken Thornett. One of those two. Both
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a no-brainer for me. Out of both of them there.
Yeah.
Ray Price can go for a walk.
Who would be?
I was going to say, because he played rugby union, but I think one of the Thornett boys did too.
Who would be the West Tigers, Mount Rushmore?
Craig Field.
Craig. Kevin McGuinness.
John Opawati.
And there's got to be someone else.
John Bateman.
John Bateman.
Beat that. Fucking beat that.
It's hard to beat.
The West Tigers Mount Rushmore is going to be Benji, Robbie, Scando.
Really?
Probably. Come on, who else are they going to be?
John Wilson.
Hodjo. Brett Hodgson.
Brett Hodgson, yeah, he'd probably go pretty close. What about Darren Centre?
He's only there for 2 years, I think.
It's all right, 2 years.
Scandalis.
I don't know about that.
Either him or Bryce Gibbs.
What about the Panthers one?
Look, for the Panthers, it'll be people who have never been inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't address that. That's a fucking shame.
Greg Alexander's not in the Hall of Fame.
No, neither is Roy Simmons.
No fucking way.
Roy Simmons only played for rest of the world.
Yeah, but that's not a test match.
No, it's not. We know that.
Yeah.
But when playing against Great Britain, he was deemed to be the best hooker in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one else, not Benny Elias. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's crazy that Greg Alexander's not in the Hall of Fame.
I'd have both of them in there, but Greg Alexander absolutely should be there.
Who's the best? Okay, here's another one for you. I'm just throwing them at you now. Who's the best halfback in New Zealand Rugby League history?
Freeman. It's got to be. Who else is there?
It's not even bloody close, eh? Because I was thinking about this as they were talking about Sean Johnson. I saw commentators saying that he was maybe the best New Zealand player ever and just wanted to throw stuff at my TV screen. Then they were saying he was the best New Zealand halfback ever, and I was like, is he top 4 maybe? But Freeman's the best, yeah. You're right. You're 100% right.
Let's see. Who's the most capped halfbacks of all time? Let's see. Gary Freeman, Stacey Jones. Both played 46 tests.
Yep.
Bill Snowden played 42. Wasn't too bad. Richard Wynyard as well. Ken Sterling was pretty good in the 70s. Sean Johnson's there. He's played 25 tests. Sel Belsham played in the 50s. It's a pretty short list.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just too hard. You can't go past Gary Freeman.
Freeman was just he was a fantastic halfback, full stop.
Especially for the size of it, man. My God.
Yeah.
Another player, I know he wasn't genuinely considered a halfback. He did play there occasionally, though, was George Menzies. He played during the 50s when they just had that golden era of great players everywhere, like globally. Jim Bond in the 60s. You can't really include Benji Marshall.
No, it's definitely a 5'8", hey?
Who else was there? The only two or three others I can think of, but I don't think they played a huge amount of tests. There's William Sorensen.
You know who you're missing?
Who?
A dude in Melbourne.
Am I though?
Would you take... Okay, here's the question, because I was thinking about all these questions. Would you take Sean Johnson's career over Jerome Hughes' career?
No.
Neither would I. Would you take Sean Johnson in a big game over Jerome Hughes?
No.
Would you take him in a test match?
No.
So who's the better player then?
Sean Johnson!
This is what I was thinking about, because I was like thinking about players who played in the premiership but maybe didn't play for New Zealand for whatever reason. But then I was like, okay, so if you think Gary Freeman, right?
Mhm.
I still think I'd take Gary Freeman over Jerome Hughes. I think he's a more natural all-round halfback. But I would take Jerome Hughes second. I'd take Jerome Hughes ahead of Stacey Jones, and I'd definitely take him ahead of Sean Johnson.
Yeah, I think I probably would too, to be honest.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm glad we think alike, because if we didn't, I'd have to get someone else to be on this podcast with me.
That's fair. I will say this, okay. I do rate Stacey Jones higher than you.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Not
You do.
not by a huge amount.
Yeah.
But I do rate him higher than what you rate him.
I just think that I know he played in bad teams, and I know that a great player in a bad side, you can't just lump it all on them. But when you're a halfback, you can't lose that many games.
No, and that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. But
And
I just
look,
think sometimes you can take a good player in a poor performing team, and if you were to say, right, how would they perform if they had a great team around them? How would Stacey Jones have performed if you had to put him in the Broncos team at the time?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
He'd look like a fucking immortal.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Same goes for how would Benji Marshall look if he was put in that Melbourne Storm side? Fuck.
Oh, be unfair.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a level of cause and effect as well. Is I guess my point of view.
That is true. That is true. So there was three other players I was going to mention. They didn't have long careers, but they were pretty successful. Or one was pretty prominent. Lance Todd played in the very early 1900s.
Oh yeah.
Fred Acoy played in the late 70s, early 80s. And there was William Sorensen who played in the 50s. They were all pretty prominent 5'8" as well. New Zealand did have a pretty good time during the 50s and 60s with skilled ball players.
Mm-hmm.
But it was hard to be, and not just for New Zealand, for all nations, it was hard to have an extremely dominant footballing career or look like you've been some sort of prolific point scorer or try scorer or anything like that during the 50s because every team was just fucking insanely good.
Mm. Yeah. Well,
so there was just no walkovers anywhere to pad your stats, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think that's why when you talk about and the podcast we had the other week where it's like Churchill and Aubert, who I had on my Mount Rushmore of all time, and they're from that era, but they in that era, they were head and shoulders above everyone else, which is just hard to explain.
Yeah.
It's like Wally Lewis in State of Origin. It's like you got all the best players from Australia, and this guy was a monster among them. And to do that is incredible in itself, and that's what those two did in that golden era.
Oh, absolutely. That's why one of the things I wish I could have seen in my lifetime was either of those first two World Cups, especially the first one in 1954.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see. I mean, we might go back through some of the matches and stuff like that one day and do a history episode because there was only 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
4 games, 5. I know 2, 4, 6 games, and then the final 7th game.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't be a huge thing to go through, but there were so many great names in there. Just phenomenal. Australia finished 3rd in that tournament out of the 4 teams with a points difference of -6.
Wow. Holy crap.
It was insane.
But who won the plate and the bowl? Who was relegated though?
Well,
That's
let's
what I
see.
really want to know.
Well, Great Britain won the cup. So I dare say, well, France would have had to play Australia, and in the games before, France beat Australia, so they can have the plate, and then it'd be left with Australia versus New Zealand. Australia beat New Zealand, so they get the bowl, and New Zealand can have the spoon.
Excellent.
Everyone gets a piece. You can all have a picnic together, and we can all have cuddles and hold hands and sing songs.
Excellent.
Lovely. What else has been going on? Do we have any emails?
No, we didn't have any emails.
Well, that's shocking.
Yeah, I know. Our listeners they
Ooh.
don't like to participate very often. They just like to hear what we've got to say, which is fine. Oh, you know what? There was
Yes.
some.
Yes,
There was this
we had a
fucking
listener.
guy.
We had a listener whinge to us.
Yeah, this fucking guy didn't bother to take his fucking name. He was part of some website. Here he's like third in command or something on that website. Gets carried a lot, I hear. Be nice if you'd stop breaking that website, by the way. Just saying.
Is it broken?
It just breaks all the time. So it was like, I tell a person that owns it, and he's like, I fucking tell that guy to stop breaking my website. But yeah, he said we should read the YouTube comments soon. So maybe we can do that in the next episode.
Okay. I've found his comment.
Okay.
Sean, I don't endorse anything of what LeagueFreak just said, by the way. Don't sack me.
Surprised you don't normally say his first name. You just call him that S guy.
Yeah. My superior.
You always call him my worker, my underling.
You change your tune when you see what he's just written. He's written quite a fair bit here.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And it starts with, I 100% agree with LeagueFreak on the exclusivity of the Immortals, and I've always felt that way.
He's a Cadillac amongst men, this man.
You've got to remember that when the Immortals was first done, aside from the stuff we do know, like it was a magazine that was done to sell booze, etc., there was no Hall of Fame in Australia. Now we do, and that's perfect. We can easily identify players who were genuinely great and add them to the Hall of Fame. But the notion of an immortal to me should be a player who was so all-time, so incredibly undeniably great, that it's fine if you have a literal 30 to 40 plus year period of history where there were just no immortals at all. Mm-hmm. As LeagueFreak said, it should be essentially impossible to even get in there. Gods of League is a great way to frame it, and people talking about Cam Smith literally wait 20 years before you even think about it. Let the history bedded over a long period. I think the Immortals concept was spoiled from 1999 onwards, not because of who they added or why, but because they came out and said, all right, we want to add to the Immortals. We don't know who. We'll figure that out later, but we just want to add someone. Totally the wrong way to go about it. A player has to be so all-time legendary that they fight their way into it. I agree with Puigobert too. Him, Dally M, the Little Master, Wally, to me, those are the choices that are almost impossible to argue against. And if you start to go through more after that, you introduce, even if it's the absolute slightest hint of potential doubt or challenge, etc., yeah.
And that was my thing with, and it'll upset some people, but that's my thing about Ron Coote, is that when you say, like, was he better than Raper? No, he wasn't. But that's got to be how harsh it is. Like, that's literally got to be how harsh it is. That is, like, devastatingly harsh. And that's not to say you're not an amazing, incredible, one of the best players of all time, but that should be the level that the Immortals are at.
I fully agree. And that is why I said, like, the system I had there, I made it so it was as flexible as possible so that you could have people go into any sort of decade anywhere. But once they're in and you've only got 2 slots, that's it. There's no wriggle room to put other people in elsewhere. And it meant that you were, if you had a period like we do with the 60s and the 70s, where there's just a bunch of them that are all played around that same period that could just go in there. You spread them out across the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. You're weeding out those who you think might be potential. Everyone was pushing all the time for Sterlo to be included. But if you've got Wally Lewis and Arthur Beetson in the 80s already, where does Sterlo go? In the 90s? Fine. He's got Mal Meninga and Andrew Johns there. Who are you pushing out?
I see where you're coming from. Yours is almost like it's a qualifier on if you're that good, then you're going to push someone out.
Exactly. And that's the same thing you're doing, but just worded differently, I think. Because if someone is that good, then you find a way to put them in there.
Well, mine's way more arbitrary, without question. It's whereas your one you can quantify in some way because you are going by the decades.
Yeah.
So I think that, look, I think both of those ideas are better than the way they do it now. And yeah, like it's an interesting argument. It's a really interesting argument. But I think that was the thing that come out of it for me, was that the Hall of Fame it just is not what I wish it was, and the Immortals are not what I wish they were, and it doesn't matter what I say, it's not going to change it. So you just got to accept it, I guess, which is sad, but what can you do about it?
Exactly. So that we got all of those comments out of the way.
Yeah.
I love you, Sean.
Sean, wonderful man. He agrees with me. So,
That's right.
and I knew that the head, the figurehead, the owner of Rugby League Project would agree with me.
Of course.
Great man. He
is. I'm not doubting that. I could wax lyrical about the magnificence of Sean.
Yeah.
You're
always saying all the work he's doing on the back end of the site, people should see it.
Let's be honest. He's not just doing all the work on the back end. He's doing all the work on the front end and in the middle end.
Yeah. I know. You tell him. You say. Broke another thing today. Hey, fuck.
Yeah. Fucking Andrew. Did it again. I'm sorry. He's lovely, brilliant, magnificent, glorious human.
We must have talked about international rugby league history in the last episode for like an hour plus.
Mm-hmm.
I could literally start again right now, hey?
We probably will. What's the time? It's not even midnight.
Not midnight, yeah.
No, we'll probably just hang this up and then we'll do it for another hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you start asking me about who's kicked the most field goals as a fullback, and then I go and fuck around with the script.
Be grey media, wouldn't it?
So you've already. No, I'm not going to look at it. No, it'd be Eric Sims. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
86.
Yeah. You're right.
Maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe props. You go with props.
Who would be the most field goals by a prop?
That's a good one.
That's a hard one.
John Gray.
Is it? How many?
I don't know. I'll go with John Gray.
Well, tell me. I want to know exactly who it is.
We won't give the listeners everything. We'll just do that in our own spare time.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll see if that's teased any of them into wanting to know. If you want to know the answer to that or other questions similar to that, then you're just going to have to like and subscribe us on YouTube and send us comments on the video there.
And go to Rugby League Project, where the statistics are correct every week, no matter what competition. They don't have to make corrections because they're correct the first time.
We'll like that's an opinion, I guess.
I cross-referenced this 3 times and was still wrong. And then someone posts the link to Rugby League Project. Takes them 2 seconds and it's correct.
Oh, wells.
Whoops.
Yeah, we've got some content coming from Rugby League Project in the next few weeks.
Excellent.
Added extra content add to the website because it's not a big enough drain on the world's servers.
Yeah,
we need to make the thing fucking bigger, and so we are.
Yeah.
So it's going to be great.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm going to ask you what that all is after the podcast is finished.
I'll tell you this bit.
Mm-hmm.
We've got all the captains sorted out for every single game ever played in the New South Wales Rugby League and NRL.
Oh, that's interesting.
Every game. Even got the whole heap of the coaches upgraded. We've got more coach records on there and stats upgraded on there.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure we've got all of the sin bins and send-offs that we've been able to find anyway since 1908 on there as well.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And we've got all of the midweek, pre-season, post-season, all those minor comp games. They're all in there. I think there's only about 3 or 4 games that don't have a lineup that we've been able to find yet.
Okay.
Out of a few hundred.
Hey, when did they bring in the sin bin and the send-off?
Sin bin, I think, was 83, 84. The send-off has been around since 1908.
Has it really?
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine what they were doing in like 1908 to get sent off?
Yeah, so I think the first one was a bloke got shot in the eye. No, I don't know. I don't know what they were doing back then. Had to be pretty nasty.
Prop was sent off, brought a sickle onto the field.
I think that's along those lines. You remember when we did the L Park Ride episode, we had fans going home and I'll just go home and grab the axe. I'll be back in a sec.
Yeah, they brought back weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah, look up the episode, L Park Riot, or Fergo and the Freak episode. Amazing.
It's not a long one, but it's a fascinating story.
Yeah.
I was just going to see if anyone got sent off in 1908. Just for fun. I don't think anyone did, to be honest. I'll give you this little tidbit, though.
Okay.
Round 1, 1908.
Yeah.
Daly Messenger played reserve grade for East.
Really? He played reserve grade?
Yeah, he was at the ground to watch his brother play. He had no intention of actually playing himself.
Okay.
And when the club officials saw him there, they went, "Oh, Daly, you got to come and play, mate." He's gone, "Oh," I think that he said, I didn't bring my togs with me. I don't have my uniform to play." He says, "That's okay. We'll find one for you."
Yes, you would.
I put the gear on him that he ran out in the first half. And the few media reports at the time were saying he was just dominating play. So he scored 1 or 2 tries. He set a few up. And then by the time it got later on in the first half and through the start of the second half, he would only play in his team's half.
Wow.
He'd play up to halfway and then he'd just stay back.
Oh, wow. Was there a reason why he wasn't playing? Like, was it because he'd come back from the All Gold store or something?
Yeah, he just got back from the All Gold store and he just wanted to watch the first round of footy and he wanted to be there to watch his brother play.
Yeah.
And then he got roped into play. So his first ever club game in Australian Rugby League is also his only ever game in reserve grade.
Imagine being on the other side and it's like...
Oh, what fucking...
They've got a ring. It's Daly Messenger.
He just played 40 games over in England. I'm going to play against him my first ever game of this. I'm just learning how to play this bloody sport.
But that must have been what it was like. You know the Aboriginal knockout competition that they have at the end of the year?
Yeah.
It must have been like that the first time they got an NRL player into it, hey, like a current one, where it was like, oh, they've got fucking Jamal Idris. What the hell? Like, I don't know if it was him. It wouldn't have been him, but, you know, it would have been like
I think Chris Sando went over there a few times, I think, during his footy season when he was actually playing pretty good football in the NRL.
Oh, there's been heaps of them.
Did Inglis go over once?
What's that?
Did Inglis play in it once?
I feel like he did, yeah, because there was, like, I've watched it a few years and have been like, how does this work in terms of getting all of the, you know, just the insurance stuff for it is... I like they work it out because these players do play in the competition, but like they have literal NRL stars running around in that competition. I think the only reason that there haven't been players like, say, Thurston running around in it is because he was always late into the finals when it was on. Because I'm pretty sure it's like around finals time it's on. But yeah, they've had some like out and out superstars in that competition. That's why it's so good to watch.
Oh yeah. It's bloody great footy too.
Yeah, it's really good, really good. Did you see that?
Here we go. Just see Latrell Mitchell, Josh Adokar, and Nico Hines have played in it.
Yeah, there you go.
It was established in 1971.
Yeah, it's been going for a while.
The Koori knockout.
I used to watch it. I don't know what it's on now. It's probably on SBS or something like that, but it used to be on NITV, I think.
Yeah, NITV on Foxtel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd chuck that on and have that on. And it's like the lead into the finals at night or something like that.
Yeah, oh man, it's fascinating footy, man. I love watching it. You don't even know, the great thing about it is you don't have to support a team. You just tune in and watch it and just watch just amazing football being played. It's kind of like when we watch international football between two nations that we don't really know much about the international history on. You're just watching two football teams playing rugby league, and it's just there's just something great about it. You don't have anything invested in the result.
Yeah, I feel like that when I watch, like say PNG in the Cook Islands, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's just amazing to watch. Just watching it and just enjoying it for what it is.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. I think we've covered everything in this one.
Yeah, I think we've done well. We only had to cut out 5 minutes of it.
Yeah. There was a bit of drama there.
Yeah, there was a little bit of something happened.
Oh, well, you won't do that again.
No. People think that I did something. Thanks.
Well, come on. That's what they're going to do anyway.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, I can tell you now, at least he wasn't angry this time.
Yeah, I wasn't angry. I was quite joyful.
Yeah, that's right. It was all good. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you check us out on all of the socials. Get over there on YouTube, like and subscribe, and give comments on the videos there. We'd love that. You know what? Go on there. This is because we've discussed it on the last 2 episodes. Go on there, state what team you follow. We don't care where, and tell us the Mount Rushmore for your team. And when we get a chance, we might go through those and find out what people think, and we'll discuss those decisions and tell you why you're wrong.
Yeah, we will take your Mount Rushmores and we'll break it down. We'll break you down as a person as a result.
That's right. We'll just put it absolutely just a big, smashing ball through the whole fucking mountain.
And I would say this too: if you're a Super League fan, an English supporter, and you want to do the same thing, don't, because we don't care.
No, they can.
Yeah.
But just know that the correct answer for all 4 is Australian players.
100%.
I think we've got to make that. You've got to give them a leg up.
Aren't they too busy going to sporting events and singing for 2 hours and then destroying the rest of the surrounding areas afterwards?
I'm just going to bite my tongue. I fear I'm going to repeat an earlier comment.
Good on them, though.
Absolutely. Well, they're enjoying themselves.
Yeah, you've got to be known for something, don't you?
That's right. They don't know what yet.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you check us out. As I said, all the socials. We're over there on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X, whatever it's called now. Subscribe, like, all that sort of stuff. That would be fantastic. We'll catch you all next time.